Hi there Capricorn, thank you for joining me for your year 2015 forecast, and it begins in sparkling fashion with your solar return featuring Mercury and Venus in a tight embrace. Now Mercury is the planet of enterprise and it's of talk and thought, and Venus is the planet of charm, and you're going to be drawing a lot of attention this year with the quality of your ideas, but also the strength of your personality, which can see you radiate a special magic throughout the whole 12 months. And also, there is a very important opposition between Mars and Jupiter at the start of this year, which can give you the sense that something's going to improve as far as your financial fortunes are concerned. And you know, I think you can be absolutely right. But especially if you can invest in your individuality and therefore your creativity and flair. Don't necessarily see yourself as being a follower of fashion this year. It's time for you to be more of a trend setter. But in some ways, this kind of goes against the grain because you are one of the most orthodox of the zodiac signs. You believe in chipping away at situations and getting to your targets through sheer patience and persistence. And that gives you an awesome stickability. And that comes about partly because of your ruling planet Saturn, which gives you that strength of character to keep going when things aren't always easy. And that's going to be important this year too, but for a different reason, because Saturn moved at the end of last year into a hidden, more spiritual part of your horoscope, and it's going to spend 9 months of 2015 in this sector. Then from the middle of June through to the middle of September, it's going to switch back into your sector of friendships. But I do think Saturn's going to give you a lot of food for thought, and it's asking you to clear up a lot of loose ends that began many moons ago. It depends on your age and your particular generation, but if you've been persistently working towards targets over a long period of time, this is a 2.5 year period where you can charge forwards trying to complete these before Saturn moves back into your sign at the end of that period. Now it's important to understand that when Saturn moves through the 12th solar house, this can have an impact on our mental health. But on our mental health, I mean in a positive way. We tend to see mental health, particularly in the Western world, as being some kind of affliction, but it's part of a trinity. It's linked between our emotional well-being, our physical well-being, and then of course our mental well-being. And they're all joined together. They're not something different. And it's important you embrace the side of yourself that perhaps in some ways you don't always find easy to own. And that could be faults, it could be weaknesses and vulnerabilities and anxieties. And the more you do, the more Saturn is going to support you during this period of time. The more you let pride get in the way, well, that can be a tricky factor. Now also at the start of this year, Uranus, the planet in the part of your horoscope to do with your home life, continues to be very restless, a very restless influence indeed. And it's squaring back towards Pluto in your sign, which has been the planet, the entity, which has had such a massive impact upon you over the last 7 years. For the first 5 months and the last 2 months of the year, this square can shake you up at times. It can challenge your view of the world. It's possible this can come about simply through family associations. There may be clashes with someone from a different generation to you, or it's possible that you're the restless person, but going against what you've been drilled to do in the past, especially since you were a child even, may not be easy, which can set up some inner dilemmas and pressures. And Saturn moving through this private zone is going to ask you to unpick these and try to deal with them once and for all. And then the pressure of Uranus's argument with Pluto will be much less keenly felt. Now in the first part of the year, in January, there's a lot of focus early this year on the part of your scope to do with earning. Don't be surprised if you have some form of good luck this year. And part of this comes from the fact that through to August the 10th, Jupiter, the planet of fortune, continues to work its way through your business sector. Your fortune can come from your involvement with other people, so do try to work collaboratively. Now, because you're naturally cautious, you won't perhaps get so caught up in the opposition in a way that can be more detrimental. In other words, believing that everything's possible with no effort. That's just not your mentality. You know that perspiration is as important as inspiration. But the picture starts to shape up a bit more keenly on the 20th of March, because then we have a solar eclipse in the part of your horoscope that is to do with how you think, how you express yourself. But it links into a lunar eclipse, part of a polar pair, which occurs on the 4th of April in the sign of Libra. And this is shining back across the heavens, forging an opposition with Uranus. So therefore, we have a T-square with Pluto. So this is going to be an important eclipse period for you. And it can be quite defining for you in the following 6 months, because it's asking you to be conscious that your communications need to perhaps be updated, become more relevant to the way the world is now, not perhaps to the orthodoxies that you were taught when you were younger, and perhaps you've always supported throughout your life. Some things could be smashed up, and that could be very unsettling, but also it can be an opportunity to embrace things which can see your life revived and be vibrant and zesty, with new streams which really help to inform your interaction with the world at large. So do be open-minded. That is the lesson of those eclipses at that time. But Jupiter starts to go forwards slightly after that on April the 8th. You can celebrate this because this could mean more good news between then and also August the 10th. But by the middle of June, Saturn then pops back into the part of your scope to do with your future hopes, your friendships. And that 3-month period through to the middle of September is going to be very interesting. People that in the past you have been very comfortable with, if you don't feel at quite such a psychological level that you're at ease with them, then things can start to change, especially once Jupiter moves signs into your sister Earth sign of Virgo on the 11th of August. And on the face of it, this sounds wonderful for you because it points towards travel, it points towards expansion of your experience, and it also points towards higher education. But we just need to be mindful that Jupiter in this part of the zodiac is not at its most comfortable. It's in a detriment. So just be aware, especially when it goes face to face with Neptune, that in September there could be times when your thinking is as clear as sludge. And if so, don't be tempted to make any big decisions, especially around your career on the back of the solar eclipse. Wait until October. Then Jupiter forges a stunning link with Pluto in your sign. And something which is incredibly important to you will suddenly start to fall into place in a way which can see you smiling from cheek to cheek. Now, at the end of the year, you do have the repetition of that Uranus square Pluto. But it's been going on for the last 3 years, off and on. It's nothing new, and even when it hasn't been going on, it's still been very close to being going on, and it's very much to do with all the disturbances going on in the world at large. There is, however, a bit of a clash between Saturn, which moves back in September, remember, back into the sensitive 12th house of your horoscope, and Neptune in your sector of ideas. And something could profoundly depress you between the middle of November and the first week of December, and you mustn't let it. It's possible that someone will use some psychological tactics in order to put you down somehow or drain you out. It's very important during this period to make sure that your boundaries and parameters are very firmly in place to keep people who don't feed your self-confidence at a distance. And once the sun emerges into your sign in December, you will rediscover your joie de vivre.